Liz Lamping here, PHRA's Executive Director. Welcome to P4, People, Purpose, Passion, Pittsburgh. P4 is brought to you by our members and sponsors, Latitude and the University of Pittsburgh Executive MBA Programs and Center for Executive Education. We appreciate their support, and we will hear from them throughout the podcast, beginning with the University of Pittsburgh Executive MBA Programs and Center for Executive Education.
Everybody, my name is Kori Amos, and I am your guest host for the PHRA's P4 podcast, and I'm here with two very special people who we are going to be having some very hard-hitting conversations with. Just kidding, we're going to keep it light. I have with me two members of the PHRA's Board of Directors. I have Dan Corkum and Megan Wollerton. We're going to be talking to them and helping you to get to know them a little bit better. I'm going to start with like a super easy question. It's who are you and what do you do? Or as John Ralphio from Parks and Rec would say, how you making that paper? So let's start with Dan. Dan, what do you do and who are you?
Hey, good morning, Kori. Thank you so much for having me, by the way. So my name is Dan Corkum. Personally, I'm originally from Toronto, Ontario, Canada. I grew up here in Pittsburgh. Big fan. Plan on staying. And so, by day, my day role is I'm the senior manager of total rewards for the Federal Home Loan Bank of Pittsburgh. My role encompasses compensation, benefits, and payroll through design and strategy, through execution and administration. So I'm involved in the nitty-gritty details all the way up through really strategy and design of all the programs.
So how you make that paper is figuring out how everybody else is going to make that paper.
Precisely.
Precisely. And knowing you're from Canada, which I knew is just makes so much sense because he does follow the stereotype of why he is so nice. Megan, who are you and how do you make that paper?
I feel like I'm a little bit of an oxymoron. So I've got this softness to me. A mother of two, and I do a lot of coaching and helping others. But then I have this hardness to me where I like to ride motorcycles. I was a competitive boxer, still love to get in the ring and spar. So like I said, I kind of live a little bit of a double life there. So, but for work, I am the president and owner of Life Force Wellness. So I help companies develop their corporate wellness programs. And I also do one-on-one coaching, basically helping people deal with the burnout and letting off that stress in a healthy way.
So we have a Canadian and a boxer. So we really have like nice, and then I'll come for your neck, just to make it really succinct. I love it. So Megan, what is your role with the PHRA? What are you doing for the PHRA these days?
So I try to help out where I can. I sit on the signature events committee and helping planning a lot of the different events and just getting to know the members. And I'm also a connector. I like meeting different people and connecting them with other members of the PHRA so that they can collaborate.
That's wonderful. So for anybody who doesn't know, our signature events would include Engaging Pittsburgh, Golf and Bocce, and then the annual conference. So 3 major events. So Megan is busy if she's supporting those things. Dan, what do you do for the PHRA?
Sure thing. So I am the past president. So in the 2023 calendar year, I was the president of the organization. It was an absolutely fabulous and absolutely great year. A lot of great results, a lot of great accomplishments. And now I'm here in the early portion of 2024. I've transitioned to the role of past president. So on paper, if you would, my role is to ensure that the nominating committee process goes smoothly this year, as well as being responsible for our track program. Other things I do for the PHRA include I do actively participate in the buddy program. I'm actually meeting somebody this Saturday. I attend as many events, whether they're the previously mentioned signature events or even the networking events. I attend as many as I can. I'm looking very forward to the event on, I think, March the 20th at Bubba's in South Point at their hockey arena there. I really like that. I'm a fan of burgers. So looking forward to that one. And then I do as much as I can to support the PHRA in those senses. So.
That's fantastic. And I should have mentioned, I am also a past president. So a fisherman always spots another fisherman. So we've come all the way up through the ranks and out. So for anybody listening who doesn't know what the buddy program is, and I think it's a particularly great program where if you want to get involved or you want to get more connected, Megan's a connector. I'm sure she'd be a great buddy. But if you want to get more connected and have like a one-on-one, almost professional matchmaking situation, let the PHRA know that you're interested in the buddy program. They will connect you to an existing member just for the purposes of networking and getting more connected. That, there's over 1,000 members of the PHRA. So if you take it down to just one person, you might be able to get connected a little bit more. Now, I have an interesting question that I think is interesting. So this is me complimenting myself and then asking you a question. Megan, did you feel like you chose your career path as a wellness coach or that you fell into it? Because a lot of times when I talk to people who work in HR or something HR adjacent, it's always like, I picked it and I went for it, or I fell into it somehow. How did you come to where you are today?
So it was definitely an evolution for me. I went to school for business administration and marketing, came out right into the oil and gas field industry. And I've shared my story that I experienced massive burnout, being on call 24/7, managing a team at that middle level manager, rate, burning the candle at both ends. And so I had an opportunity to leave that industry. And I worked with a personal trainer and a health coach who was a friend of mine. And eventually, when she sat me down, goes, okay, your non-compete's coming to an end. You're going to re-enter the workforce. How are you going to do this? I went, well, I'm not going back like that. So I switched my career in probably, I want to say 2013. I switched my career and got into health and wellness, became a personal trainer, a health coach, and then really thought, how can I bring this back into the workforce that I had left? How do I help people that are like me or were like me, experiencing that burnout, that stress, those ones that are constantly grinding, taking the knowledge I have now and bringing that into the corporate environment to kind of save them the anxiety that I had.
What is one piece of advice you would give to somebody who wants to transition careers? Because this is something that you might want to transition to HR, you might be HR and you want to transition out, but we're also the people from a talent management and acquisition perspective. We talk to people like that. What's one piece of advice you would give to somebody who wants to, because you had a full-on transition, right? What's one piece of advice you would give?
I would say make sure you have a really strong support system. I probably would not have switched careers if I didn't have a friend that was encouraging me and mentoring me. If I didn't have a husband who was willing to support, and kind of scale back that budget. Walking away from a career and a whole paycheck is really scary. And so making sure you have those people in place that can be your support system and help you work through the process, I think is really key.
I think that's really good practical advice. That's a very practical way to approach it. Thank you for that. Dan, did you pursue a life of total rewards or did you fall into it? What is your origin story with HR?
I did pursue a life of total rewards. So I learned about human resources when I was an undergraduate student. I liked it. I loved it. I had actually started off kind of in the workers' comp field, and then I really made my steps a couple years later into the total rewards space, and I've been there ever since. I quite frankly couldn't see myself doing anything else. So I always wanted to be in the field.
That's so interesting because you really do see people, they either wanted it or it's like, I fell into this somehow. And especially for you, Dan, on the total reward side of things, what are you seeing? Like, read the tea leaves for me. What's one of the biggest trends you're seeing now? What's a trend that you're forecasting maybe for the short-term future?
Kind of a two-pronged answer. I see, internally to my organization, I see data being more crucial than it ever has been. Being able to take large amounts of data, quickly come to conclusions with it, quickly summarize data, and then really being able to make suggestions or recommendations or provide options around, what does this data tell us and what could we really do with that data. It really continues to be a trend that I don't ever see going away. And then kind of secondarily, at least in the total reward space, I would say, the pay transparency is here to stay. You've
Yeah.
seen a number of, what you've seen, you've heard, if you follow SHRM, if you follow, other, PHRA news announcements, you've seen that, there's states, there's cities, there's nationalities, localities, everybody seems to have their own different take and viewpoint on what pay transparency is, whether it's in job ads or full on job ranges. So that's definitely, I think something that's going to probably continue in the future.
Yeah. And it's not this binary, but like good thing or bad thing, pay transparency, good thing or bad thing. If you had to say a vote, it's good or it's bad. What's your opinion?
I think it's a good thing. I think it provides transparency to the process, and it'll eventually get to really help bring more equity about to force organizations to really think about more equitable decisions in their decision making process.
I think it's only even if it might be a little clunky or hurt a little bit, I think it's only net positive if you look at the long term.
Yeah, it might hurt to rip the Band-Aid off, but I think the world would be a better place with it.
What are you seeing, Megan, in your world as far as trends or things that you're foreseeing? I mean, especially where, Gen Z coming up and the different demographics that we're going to be seeing over the next 5-10 years, a post-pandemic society and world, and EAPs are, hurting and, getting more requests than they ever have before. What trends are you seeing? And is there any practical advice that you could give to HR leaders on different initiatives or strategies that they can take?
Yeah, I think for me and what I do, the biggest trend is really more of a focus on mental health in the workplace. And, with what I do, even in wellness, it's not going to be exercise. We're not going to exercise ourselves out of a bad mental issue. And so, really seeing a lot more focus going into, really creating compassionate workplaces, providing more resources to employees. And then, specifically, there's a lot of research coming out with Gen Z being the less mentally resilient generation in our workforce. And I think there's a lot of factors at play there. I've been doing a lot of research, digging into things on why is that? What were they missing that maybe some of the older generations had? And how can we bring that back into the workforce so that we can really give them the tools they need to deal with conflicts and setbacks? Because right now they just don't have the tools that we did growing up to really deal with those hurdles that life throws at them.
That's interesting. So what I hear you saying is thinking about wellness, not just, hey, here's a gym membership, let's get our claims down, but also thinking about it more holistically and thinking about, that mental health piece. How would you coach somebody or talk through some of the hesitation that organizations can have where they kind of don't want to mix too much or get too much into somebody's personal life or their mental issues? They kind of want to keep some level of, I don't know, safeguards in the workplace. How do you care for people, but also keep things professional?
I think that COVID really did one thing, and we brought work into the home even more so than ever before. With having these Zoom calls, we're seeing into people's living rooms, we're seeing their dogs, their kids, their cats. We kind of release that veil of work is at work and home is at home. And I think that's an old mentality of thinking. And I think the younger generation, they blend the two. They go to work to find purpose and fulfill certain passions they have and goals and dreams that they have. And I think companies, if they really want to retain those employees, they need to come alongside them and partner them. They need to have, some of my clients do what's called dream meetings, and really partner with them on how do we make this more fulfilling for you because you spend so much time here. How can we really help you with the other goals you have in life, and trying to blur that line of, well, we don't care about what goes on in your home life, and at home you shouldn't care about what goes on at work. It's too blended now, and I don't think that's going to reverse.
I don't think it is either. No, I think you make a good point. I'm going to stick with you, Megan. I'm going to ask you one more question, and that is, if you were trying to tell somebody about the PHRA and your experience, how would you convey to them what the PHRA has done for you?
I would say the biggest thing is support and connection. One of the things that really drew me to the PHRA is how friendly everyone was. Even though there's other companies that are members of the PHRA that do similar things, they were very quick to collaborate with me and, really help me, mentor me. We've worked together. Some of us in some regards have done like joint ventures, sharing information. they're very quick to share, hey, this is what my company does. Maybe it can help you. They're not very tight with it. And just that relaxed environment, I can walk in and really know everybody's name. It's almost like Cheers. You go into these conferences and you know everybody, and you are willing to share with them, and you don't have to have that stress of pretending to be something you're not. You can be very genuine with the people of the PHRA.
I love you saying that. When I first joined, I mean, that's my answer. Everybody is just ready to help you in a way that I really didn't anticipate. Not that I thought I was dealing with, different than you, where, hey, you might be competitors, but it's almost a friendly competitor in a way. It's like rising tides raises all boats. So I'm so encouraged to hear you say that, because I have a very similar sentiment and experience. Dan, why do you keep giving the PHRA all your time for free? Let's just be very clear. We're volunteers, and yet we keep coming back. We just can't quit you, the PHRA. Why do you keep coming back? What would you tell somebody about your PHRA experience, and what keeps you coming back for more?
I mean, I'll tell anybody, it's an absolutely amazing organization that just continues to, be thought leaders in the human resource space, specifically within the Pittsburgh region. Being able to have, access to the individuals that we have here in Pittsburgh, as well as to the National SHRM chapter, right? It's an impeccable lineup of, access to resources, whether it's humans or, online sites or anything else that we need. And we have just such an amazing resource pool to leverage and rely on, and and help us with our professional lives. It never ceases to amaze me. Anytime I have a new situation or an issue that arises, I have somebody I can rely on, or even a resource to go to. And the relationships are what, kind of building upon what Megan said. The relationships are what, the most important piece of it for me. Being able to work as a volunteer, serve as a volunteer for the last a decade and change now has been really a life-changing experience. I'm grateful for every moment. And there's definitely there's relationships that I value, not just in the workplace or not just within the PHRA. I have lifelong friends, lifelong relationships that I'll continue to use and rely on throughout my life. So
well, thank you for sharing that. Last one, I said last one and then I lied, but this is the silly one. And Megan, I really want to know, because thinking about your wellness background. So let's just pretend in an alternative universe, you're on death row. Let's get real weird. What's your last meal? What is your last meal? There's a meteor coming to hit Earth. You have time to make one more meal. What is your last meal?
So I am a personal trainer and health coach that says there's no point in living to 100 if you can't enjoy all 100 birthday cakes.
Love it.
My last meal would be like a ribeye steak and baked potato or French fries and a chocolate milkshake. Like, that's going to be my go-to.
Ribeye, some kind of potato, and a milkshake. Oh, I love it. I read something somewhere recently that like champagne and French fries are a very good combination. And I'm very interested in testing out this theory. So awesome. Dan, what's your last meal? What you gonna eat?
Wow. I never really thought about the permutation and combination until Megan's response. But I'd go with a cheeseburger from Tesaro's. It's a restaurant over in Bloomfield, and I'd grab a McDonald's shake as well.
A McDonald's shake, what flavor?
Chocolate shake and a burger. That's what I have to go with. It's just so great. I mean, both universally amazing. So.
Can't be beat. Well, listen, everyone. I really, really appreciate you taking the time. I hope today what we were able to accomplish was sharing with our members and our Pittsburgh network a little bit more about Dan and Megan and the great work that they do for the PHRA. It's interesting, and Dan, you've probably been to some of these conferences, some of these SHRM, Society for Human Resources Management, SHRM national conferences, where they calculate, speaking of data, they calculate all of the volunteer hours that are given at local, state, and national chapters of SHRM, and that the organizations wouldn't exist without them, and we wouldn't be able to put out the number of initiatives and education and networking opportunities and fun opportunities if it weren't for great people like Dan and Megan, who were willing to give their time, knowing that they are consumers of the PHRA, but they're also major contributors. So really finding that balance, so we can have a PHRA Love Fest a little bit more and just say thank you to the PHRA. Liz, Catherine, we love you. Thank you, everybody who was listening. Connect to Dan and Megan on LinkedIn. Say hi. Don't be a stranger. And thank you so much for listening.
People do matter. And at the end of the day, we cannot get any work done if we don't have the right people in place. Are your people connected? Latitude is the one-stop shop people connection software platform. Our software workshops and programming facilitate new employee onboarding, manager one-on-ones, stay interviews, mentorship programs, and peer networking to increase retention, engagement, satisfaction, productivity, profitability, and happiness. Imagine a technology that intersects your calendar with LinkedIn, Zoom, Google Docs, and your CRM. Contact Latitude today to schedule a conversation.
The PHRA P4 podcast was created to help build HR leaders through discussions with thought and business leaders on the most critical success factor of any business, its people. If you enjoy an episode, please help us spread the word by subscribing to the podcast and providing us a rating. We would love for you to take a screenshot of the episode, tag PHRA, and share it with your followers. Until next time, thank you.